The Dangerous Days of Daniel X. Day 2 by James Patterson. Chapter 3. The sun was just coming up. Well, the grayish white smudge that passes for a sun in forever forecast Portland. As I lumbered through my rental apartment's front door and plopped down on the couch, I crossed my muddy boots on the coffee table and yawned as I opened the morning's Oregonian. As exhausted as my body was, my mind was still wired about the night before. I jumped up and went to my computer. I pulled up the list of alien outlaws and checked to see who was naughty and had been recently exterminated. Yes, sirree, number 19 was no longer on the boards. This was, in fact, the same list that the prayer had been trying to find that fateful day 12 years ago. When I was 13, I finally revisited the burnt-down farmhouse where my poor parents had been incinerated. After several days of searching, I found the list, buried under mud and rocks in the rather picturesque brook that ran behind the house. The list was on a computer, the one now before me, which is thin as a notepad, and probably 500 years in advance of anything currently offered by Apple or IBM. When I first opened it, I discovered that it contained the names, full description, and approximate whereabouts of the known outlaw aliens currently roaming the earth. And trust me on this, they are out there, watching and studying us. There was also a disturbing message for me from my mom and dad. If I was reading it, the note said, I was to replace them. I was to be the alien hunter. I would have to learn how mostly by myself. As I was pondering this troubling episode from my past, the front doorbell rang. Not good. I wasn't expecting anyone. I'm never expecting anyone. I don't really like visitors, which is ironic, since I'm lonely most of the time, and I adore people, actually. Oh no, I thought, realizing who it was. And when I say I knew who it was, I'm not saying I had a really good hunch. I knew it as fact. We'll get into that in greater detail after I get rid of my visitors. The police. Chapter 4. Paranoia alert, I told myself. Standing on my doorstep were two hulking, none too happy-looking Portland PD uniforms. Their radios were squawking loudly beside their holstered 9mm handguns. Hey, champ, the older looking of the two said. Parents home? Interesting question. And a real conversation stopper, given my history. I said. Yeah, I mean, of course, but they're pretty busy right now. Maybe I could help you? Or could you come back later? Later, he said. That's not exactly going to work with our busy schedule. See, we're from the runaway juvenile unit. One of your neighbors called us. Said she sees you coming in and out at all times of the day and night, and no sign of your parents anywhere. So if they are too busy to come out and talk to the police, you can come with us. We'll straighten this out at the precinct house. That be okay? You following me so far? I dealt with the runaway units of several police departments in my travels over the previous couple of years. They were usually pretty cool people who were, for the most part, trying to help troubled kids. For the most part, but not right now. I guess I could have told these two the truth, that I wasn't a runaway, but an alien hunter in town to take care of an important extermination. But I don't know. They didn't look ready to hear about the timely ending of Orking Jolfunga down in the Portland sewers. Okay, kid, time's up now. Let's get moving, the older guy said. Charade's over. Charade? I thought, nodding. What a good idea. Chapter 5. Now pay attention, because this is important, and also way out of the ordinary. I suspect you've never seen or heard about or read anything like this before. The older patrolman was fingering the cuffs hanging off his Sam Brown belt when a loud clatter of pots and pans came from the kitchen. The game was on. Here goes. Daniel, who's there? A woman's voice called. I'll be out in a minute after I flip these pancakes. Daniel, I'm talking to you. The look of surprise on the cops' faces was priceless, actually almost worth the stress of the moment. Want to join us for a late breakfast, gentlemen? Pancakes? I said, with a you-know-how-moms are look. A door opened down the hall, and a groggy-looking man in his 40s stepped out wearing a ratty bathrobe, baggy pajama bottoms, flip-flops, and a Portland Trail Blazers t-shirt. Hey, what's all the noise about? He said. Hey, guys, what's up? Awful early for visitors. Officer Wirtschafter, Portland PD, the older cop said. Hey, Dad, I said, sorry to wake you. The police think I'm a runaway. A runaway? My dad yawned and grabbed the edge of the door. Well, I guess not. I'm Daniel's dad, Harold Hopper. Okay, Mr. Hopper, but I'm afraid there's another problem, Officer Worcester said sourly. Portland has a truancy reduction ordinance. All kids between 7 and 18 are required to attend school. It's 9:30 now. Your son obviously isn't in school. Maybe he has the German measles, my dad said. What kind of school does he have to attend? The cops exchanged we got a live one look. Actually, quite the opposite was true. That would be high school, the older gentleman answered. High school, sure. Well, that would be a real waste of time, my dad said, and began to laugh. I laughed along with him as he put his arm around my shoulder. My mom came in then, wiping her hands on her apron. My mom is blonde and tall, and, if I do say so myself, quite the looker. In a very dignified mom sort of way. Oh, I'm so sorry, officers. My husband is a jokester sometimes, and slow to get to the point. Daniel doesn't need to go to school anymore. Chapter 6. Ma'am, everybody needs to go to school, the cop said. The mom continued. Daniel went to high school when he was 10. He has an IQ, somewhere in the 190s. He graduated from MIT last year. Our Danny has a degree in molecular engineering. We're very proud of him. Is that so? The cop said, dubious. In that case, if you would just go and get his diploma, college or high school would be fine. No problem, my dad said, crossing his arms as he stood in front of me. Right after we see yours. That sound fair to you? You're a funny guy, the cop said. You should be on Comedy Central. But I'm not joking about the diploma. You'll see his diploma when we see a warrant, my dad said, with a winky smile. Now you and Silent Bob there can leave. Wouldn't want you to catch the measles. It'll actually be fun hauling you, your wife, and your genius son in when we come back with that warrant, the cop snarled. He and his partner turned around and left in a huffy hurry. I don't think he was kidding, my dad said to me as we stood in the doorway and watched the Portland PD car squeal away from our building. I know, Dad. I'll be out of here before they get to the end of our street. I'm going after number 6 next. Urgent Seth. My mom winced. Oh, Daniel, are you sure about that? Number 6 might be way too much, way too soon. I stared at her sadly. She looked real pretty in her apron. There was even a dab of pancake batter on her cheek. Trust me, I've studied the list carefully, Mom. He's the next one. Urgent Seth has to go. Now, he's on a terrible rampage in California. Then I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly, and when I opened my eyes again, my mom and dad were gone. They were gone because I was the one who created them in the first place. I fashioned them into existence out of my memory, just to run interference with the cops. Like I said, a charade. And a pretty good one, too. Now you know a little more about me. Freaky, huh? You have no idea. Chapter 7. Here's the thing that I have to share with you. I have these powers, and I don't know exactly how I got them. I can create things, for example, like my parents. Of course, technically they're not my parents. My real parents are dead. My imagined parents are probably just mental projections that I make real. And when I say real, I mean it. When I manifest my mom and dad, they're as real as you and me, or me, right down to their DNA. How do I do it? Good question. I don't know the specifics, but what I do know is that it's most microscopic, most subatomic level. Everything in the universe, matter, people, the air, all the elements, and even energy, is made up of the same basic materials, and I was born with a strange ability to rearrange the material at will. I know what you might be thinking. I can just snap my fingers and what I want is there, but it's not really like that, not at all. There's only so much I can create for a limited period. I have to be really calm and concentrate like you wouldn't believe. If I'm tired or cranky, forget it. It won't work. Plus, there seems to be a mass limit. Or sometimes I seem to run up against a mental block of some kind. One time I tried to create a really cool flaming red Ferrari, but nothing happened. Some things are easy to create. My mom and dad, for one. I do them a lot. When I'm afraid or lonely, they're like a recipe you've done over and over again until you can do it in your sleep. I'm pretty fast, too. I'm talking about movement now. One time, a New Jersey state trooper tried to arrest me for hitchhiking, and as he started to close the cuff on my wrist, I reached out, grabbed his hand, and pulled it forward so fast he actually cuffed himself. Oh, and I've caught birds, not slowpokes like chickens either. I plucked a passing sparrow out of the air, gently, just to see if I could. I could. I'm strong, especially for someone who's 5'10", 140 pounds. Not strong enough to lift a car, but I could probably flip one in a pinch. I can influence people, sort of an instant hypnosis type of thing, and I can sometimes tell what's going to happen before it happens, like knowing that there were cops at the door. But this is the most important part, life and death stuff. Don't let anybody tell you any different. There are aliens on this planet. They've been here millions, maybe hundreds of millions of years. They were on the earth before man, even. And most of these creepy crawlers are seriously homicidal lunatics. Number 19 was a horror show and a half. But number 6, my next target, was actually plotting to change everything about life on Earth. And I don't mean he was going to bring in universal health care and solve global warming. I'm not talking homicidal, I'm talking genocidal. Number 6 wanted to take over Earth and destroy every life form, then recolonize with freaks from his own planet. That's why I had to go after number 6 now, before he got on a roll. One more thing I need to cover. There might be some good aliens here. I've never met one, but hey, never say never, right? The one thing I know to be true, there are definitely bad ones. I don't think I can stress that part enough. But wait a second. This is going to blow your mind. It did mine. Actually, I have met a good alien. In the mirror, in every mirror I look at. I'm pretty sure I'm an alien too. Chapter 8. I left Portland, heading south on a Greyhound bus. Truthfully, I prefer the train, but Amtrak clerks usually ask questions if you look like you're a minor, which I do, which I am. I tend to try to stay as paranoid as I can, and that's because I'm afraid I'm always being followed. I don't like the idea of my name or even an alias floating around in somebody's database. In fact, right now I'm afraid I'm being followed. But I try not to think about it too much. Too depressing and disturbing. On the positive side, the bus was only half full. Believe me, few things in life are worse than a lengthy ride on a crowded bus, except maybe confronting an alien with an appetite. But even so, I only took the Greyhound as far south as Grants Pass, a town 30 miles north of the California border. I could have gone all the way to LA, my next destination. Number 6 is home base, but 14 hours riding the dog is a personal limit. I laid out my Rand McNally in the back of the McDonald's across from the bus station. I wanted to see if there was a way to Southern California besides Interstate 5 so that I could be a little more off the beaten path. Right away I spotted another skinnier road, 199, heading for the California coast. The fact that I'd never seen the Pacific before settled it for me. Oregon's rain seemed to instantly turn to Northern California fog as I put the McDonald's behind me and stuck out my thumb. I don't recommend hitching, by the way. Do not. There are some pretty sick wackadoos out there. If I hadn't had the means to protect myself and the urgent need to cover my tracks, I would have stayed on the bus. But you come across some good people on the road, too. I actually caught my first lift from a couple of them, 2 nuns heading for a retreat house in Kirby. They were wearing habits, and I thought they would give me a sermon or something, but all we did was talk about the Mariners baseball team and its slim to none chances of making the AL wild card. Even better, they didn't ask me where I was going, so I didn't have to lie to them. God bless you, they said as they let me off. How nice was that? Maybe they had a sixth sense that I was about to need some extra blessings. Chapter 9. It was getting dark, an hour later, when I came across a card-carrying charter member of the wackadoo species, to put it mildly. I didn't mind so much that the pickup truck I stuck out my tongue at didn't stop. It was the can of Busch beer that sailed out of the passenger window that I found quite unnecessary. It probably would have shattered the bone structure of my face if I didn't have pretty good reflexes. I ducked at the last second and watched as the full can exploded with a foamy hiss against the trunk of a pine tree. I decided I needed to teach that idiot truck driver a lesson about highway safety and etiquette. I stared at the can and willed the spilled beer back into it. Then I sealed the crack in pop top, and holding it in my hand like a runner's baton, I started after the truck. It took me a full 10 seconds to catch up. I could have done it in less, but Bush Boy was doing 100 or so, and the roads were windy that day. I gave the surprise driver a big wink as I drew alongside his pickup's open window. "What the? How the?" he yelled over the howl of the wind. "Hey, I think you dropped something," I said, and I tossed the beer can into his lap. "Don't drink and drive, you useless dink." I was acting pretty smug until I realized that my ability to sense danger was not nearly as advanced as my super speed and strength. Because suddenly, it wasn't a beer-guzzling fool who was driving the truck. It was a plug, ugly alien with a series of wide eyes that went all the way around his head, at least a couple of noses, and dueling mouths equipped with nothing but sharp fangs, dozens of them. Chapter 10. "So who's chasing whom?" he asked with one of the mouths. "And which of my mouths gets to take a huge bite out of you first?" he asked with the other. Speed is the key, I thought, and still keeping up with the truck, I stuck finger after finger into at least a dozen of the creep's eyes. Then I held onto both of his ears and yelled, "Who sent you after me? I want to know right now." The Cretan actually started laughing. You're getting ahead of yourself, punk, he said with one mouth. I'm not after you. I'm still to come, he said with the other. Say again, I told him. Number 6 sent me, and you better go back the way you came. You better run the other way. You get it? You turn around, you boogie, or you die a horrible death in the near future. Then the voice changed before I knew what was happening. Ow, 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 please let me go, he wailed. Please, please, I've learned my lesson. And I knew why, because suddenly he was the truck driver again, and I was practically tearing the poor knucklehead's ears off. Drive safe, I said, and let him go. So number 6 somehow knew I was coming. What other powers did Urgent Seth have that were as impressive as my own? Chapter 11. By 10 o'clock, completely wiped and with still no sign of civilization, I decided to call it a night. I stepped off the road into the dark woods, kicking myself for staying up late to watch the Blair Witch Project a couple nights before. I found a level clearing, about 30 yards in that was as good a spot to camp as any. I opened my mini tent and made a little fire. Then I sat beneath the northern stars, propped against the fir tree, cold hot dog in one hand, warm Gatorade in the other. Ah, the great outdoors. Could it get much better? I hope so, because it was pretty lonely, actually, and scary, considering that I'm often hunted by aliens. That's when I heard a bunch of footsteps just outside the firelight. Uh-oh. Quit tripping me, doofus, I heard a girl's voice. That's not me, it's Willie, said a boy. You know what a klutz he is. No, it's not. It's Dana, said another boy. I'm not a klutz. You are such a klutz. Hello? Does anyone notice that it's like pitch black? Said another girl's voice. No, Emma, we didn't notice that. Hey, guys, I finally called out to the intruders. What took you so long? My best friends in the whole universe had just arrived. Let the party begin. Chapter 12. My buddies Willie, Jojo, Emma, and Dana had come to keep me company. Just like I do with my parents, I create them. And if you think about it, creating is the best superpower of them all. It's a whole lot better than being part spider. Survival training. I love it, Willie said, punching fists with me. The great outdoors, the Pacific Northwest. Wow, you know how to travel, Daniel. Stocky and headstrong, with shoulder-length black hair, Willie is around my age, 15 or so. He's always ready, willing, and able to try anything, and mix it up with anything. If anyone enjoys chasing down aliens as much as I do, it's Willie. The guy is fearless, loyal to a fault, and all heart. Chex Mix, righteous, Joe said, plopping down and snatching the bag out of my hand. Jojo, on the other hand, is more like all stomach, which is crazy because he's super skinny. He's also messy, an athlete at nothing but competitive eating, and the most sarcastic, funniest motor mouth I know. Oh, wow, Emma said, twirling around. Spruce, cedars, Douglas firs, cypresses. Amazing. I love it here. Great spot, Daniel. Emma's a year younger than Willie, and she's his sister. She's also our little group's Earth mother. Compassionate to a fault, Emma loves 2 things, the planet Earth and all of its animals, even the insects. Hey, you, Dana said, smiling at me with a jaunty shake of her head. Decided to take us camping, huh? Interesting. I mean, heat and indoor plumbing. How overrated are they? I smiled back, my mouth suddenly dry. What can I say about Dana? She's tall, with pin-straight blonde hair that flows like a waterfall of flame down her back. She's probably the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. Just my opinion, of course, but the neat part is that, hands down, Dana's the most genuine person I've met. No ego, no big head, no agenda. I have a crush on Dana so bad that it makes me physically shake sometimes. It's embarrassing. Like when I look into her eyes, which are in the blue family, somewhere between chambray and shaved ice. I stared at her in the firelight across from me and felt my wet, cold carcass instantly warm up. Way to go, Daniel, Joe said, his cheeks bloated with Chex Mix, wincing as he sat on a hard rut. Sweet spot you picked here, buddy. I mean, I love the cold by itself, but wet too? In a lousy grub. Joe's actually right for once, Willie said, whittling a stick into an arrow with my pocket knife. This place is a dump. A dump, Emma said, outraged. The Pacific Northwest is like one of the biologically richest areas in North America, maybe in all the temperate areas of the world. Besides all the coniferous growth, it's home to the mourning dove and the western fence lizard. Hey, you're right, Emma. This eco-biosystem thingy is really starting to grow on me, Joe said. In fact, Joe got down on one knee in front of the Douglas fir beside him and mimicked opening a jewelry box. Will you marry me? He said to the tree. Seriously, I love you, tree. Enough, clown boy, Dana said to Joe. I call Trivial Pursuit. Chapter 13. What can I say? We like to play board games. All right, so we're a little nerdy. And since the whole scene was my creation, we could bend the rules any way we wanted. First question, Dana, Emma said, drawing a card. Category is entertainment. Who played the role of George Bailey in Frank Capra's Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life? I know you know it, girl. Joe finished my Gatorade and gave a deafening burp. Samuel L. Jackson, he said. No, wait. It was Mini-Me. Jimmy Stewart, Dana said. You go, girl, said Emma. Next question. Joe. Category is theoretical physics. In quantum electrodynamics, what is the full scattering amplitude the sum of? Theoretical physics? Joe said, outraged. E equals mc squared. How should I know? Let me see that card. Incorrect, Emma said. Daniel, your turn. Science and nature. What does elephant mean in Latin? An elephant question? Joe said, rolling his eyes. I get the thermo what's it, and Daniel, the elephant nerd, gets an elephant question? Besides, he knows Latin. And about 100 other languages, said Dana. Huge arc, I said, ignoring them. Ella means arc, and Fant means huge. After we played Trivial Pursuit for about an hour more, I finally said, you know what, guys? I think I'm going to hit the sack. I've had a long, hard one today. Where are we headed this time? Willie said. L.A., I said, on the trail of number 6. He's nasty, and I think he's getting ready to make a big strike of terra firma. He already sent a henchman to warn me off. L.A., cool, Joe said. Number 6, cooler. The scarier, the better. The few, the proud, us. You got my back tonight? I said to Willie as I stood up and stretched my arms toward the moon. Anything gets close to this campfire that Joe can't eat, Willie said, punching my leg as I stepped past him. You're going to be the first to know. Dana poked her head down close as I slid into my sleeping bag. She looked incredible in the pitch black, but in the firelight, wow. Hey, you, I said. Just wanted to say goodnight, she whispered, leaning in. You handsome devil, you. You are gorgeous, you know. Good night, Danny boy. The last thing I felt was the sweet brush of her lips on my cheek. Then I was dreaming.